Okay, welcome to our latest live interview. This is the 8th week I've been doing these, and this is the 15th interview I've done. So thank you very much for anyone who's watched all 15 or 14 so far. It's very impressive. And tonight we've got Stuart Hamilton. And Stuart is the director of OMM, Original Mountain Marathon. Now, we've not met Stuart, but Malcolm Cochrane, a friend of yours, recommended you as being someone good to have a chat with. So thank you very much for giving us some time this evening. And if anyone is watching and you're watching live, if you've got a question for Stuart that you'd like me to ask him, then just put it in the comments and I'll ask those as we go along. And if you want to say hi and where you're from and maybe how you know Stuart, then feel free to do that as well. So just as people join us, Stuart, maybe you can just tell us a little bit about what life is like for you in these strange lockdown days.
Well, I've got two small children at home, and largely the day spent juggling who's looking after those with my wife. So yeah, today was actually quite exciting. We went and did a supermarket run, so I saw some other people, and and in between that, try to stay on top of bits and pieces of what's going on with the events and with work side of things, really.
Yeah. Well, we've got Stuart Faulkner. Sorry, you're Stuart. Joe Faulkner has said hello, so he's watching, and I'm actually interviewing Joe next week. I assume you know Joe, do you?
Yes, I know Joe well.
Yeah. So if he asked any tough questions, then you can ask him some tough ones next week if you wanted to.
I would never do that.
Yeah.
No, last time I saw Joe was on a race last year, I think, on the ITERA. He was racing with his team, and good times.
Yeah, and we've also got Malcolm Cochrane. I'm glad he's watching because he's the one who suggested you. So he's there as well. And Malcolm, Joe, if you've got questions, then please put them in and we'll go from there. Now, as I said to you, I've not met you before, so I'm looking forward to getting to know you a little bit better. And you've sent me some photographs that we're going to have a chat about, some of the things that you've done. But maybe you can just tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to be director of OMM.
I was in the military for a while, about 8.5 years I spent in the regular Marines. And I was helping out through a friend on the events and with various other bits and pieces that the team on were doing. I got a little bit more involved as time went on. I actually took part in my first on as a competitor in 2009. And then the chance came up to leave what I was doing with the Marines and to join the team. And I'd spent a little bit of time overseas with the Marines doing a couple of other different things and just fancied the change. So, I was very lucky to sort of get into doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I've been working on the events now since 2010.
Okay, yeah. Have you watched the SAS thing on television? Do you ever watch those?
Yeah, I've seen a few of them.
Yeah. I've just been watching the celebrity one that's on at the moment. Is that realistic to what it's like in training?
I've never been through the selection process,
right.
But the personalities that the instructors adopt are very familiar.
Okay.
And the processes that they're putting the guys through they're designed to find the character of people and see how people react under pressure. So you can do that in lots of different ways. But yeah, it makes for good TV. Yeah.
So in your training as a Marine, what sort of things would you go through then to prepare to be a Marine?
There's the physical side of things. So there's a little bit of jumping up and down and running around the place. You've got to get good at that. There's all the technical elements in terms of becoming competent with the systems that you're using and the basic competencies of being able to live and operate in for prolonged periods and uncomfortable and sometimes extreme environments. So you spend some time in Norway, operating up north of the Arctic Circle in the winter months. You spend quite a bit of time in the mountains, learning how to move and operate relatively heavy equipment, and how to work in such a way that allows you to be successful in those environments.
Okay. And do you feel some of those skills that you learned, are they transferred into what you're doing now?
Oh, very much so. When you're running the event, there's a lot of logistics and planning goes into it. None of it's overly complicated, but there's a lot of it, and it needs planning and detail. And when the event goes live, there are always situations that crop up that you're not quite expecting. And it's a good test of the systems and planning you've put in place if you can react and deal with those in a safe and efficient manner. But no, a lot of the things that I've learned whilst I was in the Marines have stood me in very, very good stead for I hope, what I try and do well now.
Yeah. Okay, right, we've got a question straight away, so we'll do that. It's from Malcolm, and he says, how do you keep the OMM location a close guarded secret?
Well, there's a fairly small number of people involved in the organisation of it, and there's two reasons we keep it secret. One is it's the status quo. It's the way it's always happened, and I don't particularly want to be the man who starts to try and change that, because the OM it's not my event and it's not the team's event. It belongs to the community. It was set up as a place for people to come and challenge themselves and really test their skills in the mountains. And the format of the event doesn't need changing because it delivers that, and I hope we'll continue to do so. So I don't want to change the status quo, and the community seem to like the fact that it's kept a secret, because there's always interesting conversations going on within the forums about where people think it might be. So often people book their flights to the wrong airport because they're convinced of where we're going. And the other one is because we have to negotiate specific permissions for the event, because it's open access. We don't want people to go and train on the area. That would be against the ethos of the competition. But also, it doesn't take too much to cause a problem for a gamekeeper or a tenant farmer or a landowner at different times of year. And if you start to damage those relationships, then you very quickly start to lose your event area. And we, depending on the nature of terrain in the UK, we need somewhere between 360 to 420 square kilometres. It's a big piece of real estate, and often quite a few landowners involved, and key stakeholders. And really, the relationships are critical. We've been able to put these on.
Yeah. So it must be really difficult then keeping it secret, wasn't it?
Everyone we talk to who supports the event and allows us access to the wild spaces we like to go to are pretty keen to keep it quiet as well. Okay. And the accommodation in the areas tends to fill up pretty quickly once we open anyway. And so people are quite happy to support what we're doing, and we believe it's in the best interest of the space that we're going to as well. Yeah. Because when we're there with the event, we're able to manage the movement and the processes and everything else that's going on, make sure the space is looked after. Often we have to put in temporary boundary crossing points, so stiles, and there's ecological surveys that go on to make sure that we're avoiding the sensitive areas. So we really can take accountability for when we're there and make sure there is no negative impacts. And we'd hate to think that outside of the event that we were the cause of any of that. Yeah,
yeah. I do remember once, Stuart, when I must have been, I'm from Liverpool originally, and I remember I was walking in Wales one day and I met this guy, and he was telling me that he did the OM regularly, and he wasn't quite sure what it was, and he met this farmer, and the farmer said to him, I've got this big group coming in a few months, and they take over all this field, and he realised, that must be the OM, and he sort of found out. But this was probably 35 years ago, but it's been going a long time, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. The first event was in 1968 in North Yorkshire. But if you really want to find out who the event is, if you dig around hard enough, you'll find minutes on a national park meeting somewhere, or notices have gone out to parish councils and bits and pieces. Now with the digital age, if you really want to, you can. But from my perspective, I quite enjoyed it as a competitor when I didn't know where it was, because it's nice to have a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, and that's part of the challenge, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got a comment from Stuart Smith. I had Stu on a few weeks ago, and I interviewed him. And he says, "Hope all's going well with you all. Say hi to all the OMM towers in Lancaster." And
thanks very much. Hi back, Stu.
Yeah, and he's got a question. He says, "How many years in advance are you planning at least a location? what is the closest you have come to pulling one event and moving location at short notice?
We normally plan around about 24 to 18 months out, and we'll often look at several locations in that period, so that if we need to switch an area or we get to a certain decision point where we haven't got far enough with the access side of things, that we can switch areas.
Yeah.
We've come pretty close a few times, and that's often we go and speak to people so far in advance of the event that despite them putting it in writing and coming back to them, you can come back to them sort of 6 months before the event and they've completely forgotten about it. And then there can be some scrambling to do. But in terms of, I'm trying to think, the closest we've come to not being able to put an event on, it was the Alps event last year, where the hunting rights within the Forestry Commission changed about 2 months out from the event. And we had quite a lot of work to do with that group to be able to go ahead.
Right. Good.
There was a quick flight and some lengthy conversations, which were massively made possible by the team I work with in Germany. So,
yeah. And I would imagine it must be harder when it's in a different country as well. At least if you're in the UK, you can jump in a car and go and speak to someone, or it must be a bit more difficult when it's in the Alps.
Yes, and there's quite significant cultural differences as well. Where it's all about having a good team around you and trusting sort of the knowledge and the individuals within those teams. So it's a delicate process at times, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. Well, there's some questions there. If anyone else has got a question for Stuart, then do put them in. Now, Stuart sent me a few photographs that I'd like to sort of chat about, and just a bit of a sort of a handle for what some of the things that you've been doing. So the first one is a picture of you in New Zealand on the Tongaria crossing. So just tell us a little bit about this one, please.
Yeah, one of my sisters lives over there, and in 2016 we were able to go over after the Japanese event. And the Tongaria crossing is it's a sort of day hike across volcanic terrain, and you go from one side, which is quite bare and sparse and bleak, to dropping down the other side into quite lush vegetation. You go past some amazing sort of turquoise lakes and bits and pieces. So that's I've got fond memories of that trip, where we managed to get out and do a lot of stuff in the mountains for our own pleasure. It's a beautiful place to go to if anybody gets the chance.
Yeah. So was that self-sufficient? Do you have your tent and you took all your own gear?
No, it was just a day hike, really.
Oh, right.
It had been closed for about 7 days beforehand with the weather. And then it opened up the day we wanted to go and do it. It was about -10 on top of the wind chill. And then you drop down on the other side of the ridge, and you're in the rain shadow of the weather systems, and the weather completely changes. So we'd gone from sort of snowy, sleety, blizzardy conditions getting up one side to dropping down into quite warm sunshine, and a very different day the other.
Yeah, I must admit, I've never been to New Zealand, but it's one of those countries that I would love to go. Now, we worked in India for 5 years in a school, and a number of the staff came from New Zealand, and they showed photographs, and I couldn't believe just in a small island, just a variety of scenery and mountains, and I knew about the water sports, but it's a real mountainous area as well, isn't it?
Oh, it's epic. It's just this magical sort of place that, because it stretches so far north to south, has such a range of kind of climates and vegetation and environments. And the people there are so welcoming and laid back. And the attitude is very much listen, if you want to go and do it, crack on. You're probably going to die. That's your choice. We're not liable for you. And so it's a very permissive place as well. And the whole infrastructure is set up where the campsites are all there, the toilets are there, they're free to use. They really encourage people to go out and look after the wild spaces and spend time out there. So it's awesome place to go if you get a chance. Yeah.
Is that a place that you'd like to put an OMM event on?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that a possibility, do you think?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I have to persuade a few of the rest of the team.
Yeah. Okay, well, the next photograph we've got is the Alps, and this is you planning an event. So just tell us a little bit about the OMM in the Alps and how that works.
So obviously the terrain in the Alps is quite a bit different from what we have in the UK, but the planning specifications we have for the courses take into account the vertical elevation and the horizontal distance that we're travelling. So we go and plan the courses in the same way. We spend time on the ground over there, have a look at suitable checkpoints, we have a look at what our escape routes might be and extraction points if we have casualties inside of things. So that was a really fun sort of short week that I had with the planning team over there, just going through some of those processes, confirming the overnight campsites and all those sorts of things. And there happened to be a bit of snow on the ground, so we had to do that on skis as well, which is really disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah. So is that the same event where you've got different courses for the elites and you have different categories, don't you?
Yes, so in the UK this year we've got 6 different courses.
Right.
In the Alps we are running 4 courses. The number of courses will increase as more people are doing the events. The term mountain marathon can be quite misleading because the overnight campsite is never more than, generally speaking, 10 kilometres away from the start line. So provided you can walk 10 kilometres a day, you can finish an OM.
Okay.
Now, the elite courses are a very different matter, and the long score courses as well. But yeah, effectively, you can walk 10 kilometres and back again in 2 days, and then you can finish it on. You might not score any points, but you will finish it.
Okay.
So it's trying to cater for the different abilities to allow people to test themselves at the level they want to within that environment.
Yeah, and when people apply for an OM, do they apply for a particular class, or can they make their minds up when they arrive?
Yes, we can change people's courses at registration, provided there's space within those courses before the event, so people can make the right decision when they enter. We also then take everybody's previous experience, and we ask them to complete their previous experience on the entry form. And that's not a barrier to them doing the event. We'll never tell somebody that they can't take part in the course, because one of the fundamentals behind the OM is people making the right decisions for themselves. And the best way to learn that is not to have somebody tell you what the right decision is for you to make that decision and find out yourself if it was the right one for you or not.
Yeah.
And certainly what's right for one team is not right for another. But what we do is we will get in touch with anybody who either puts some slightly tongue-in-cheek information in there, which is always interesting, or we'll get in touch with people who we think, especially if they're first-timers, we'll contact pretty much everybody who's doing it for the first time. But we'll also have a look at what their experience is in bits and pieces, and then see if we think they're on the right course. And if they're not, then we'll ring them up and have a chat. Their choice, of course, is theirs to make.
Yeah.
We want people to turn up and have a fun weekend that provides them with some memories and something that challenges them. But we want it to be achievable for people. And the other thing is, from an event management perspective, you've got people on courses that are too hard for themselves. You just have to go and get them at some stage. And that distracts you from dealing with actual emergencies. It's one of the things with the OM that we're quite fortunate with. People are carrying equipment, and provided there's no immediate risk of their situation deteriorating, we can just ask them to put their tents up and we'll go and get them when they're ready. But it's just not something we'd like to do if we don't have to.
Yeah. And I would imagine you get people coming back year after year, do you?
We are huge. I mean, we've got people who've been doing the event who have completed the event more than 40 times.
Wow.
So we have a 20-year club, a 30-year club, and a 40-year club at the moment.
Oh, wow.
To gain entry to those, you have to have completed an OM event. So not just crossed the start line, you have to have actually finished it.
Yeah.
At least one OM event in a year for that year to count. So I think at the moment the highest number is 46, although I may be wrong on that one. But yeah, incredibly humbling, and you meet some hugely capable and experienced people on the event. Stu and Joe and Malcolm watching are in that camp of being, know more about, or they'll have forgotten more about being in the mountains than I know. So it's quite a humbling place to be organising the event. Yeah. And you get all sorts of people on it, from very senior chief execs running multinational businesses, to students, to guys who are still at school, to just a real eclectic mix of different characters from all walks of life who have a shared passion of being in the hills, really.
Yeah, and they're all in teams, aren't they? It's not an individual event, is it? Yeah.
No, it's teams of two, and although it is possible to do it as a team of three as well. And teamwork is one of the test elements of the event. At some stage on that event, you'll probably have a difference of opinion than your teammate. Some people successfully resolve those, the vast majority do, and some people don't. And it's certainly a good way to get to know whoever you're doing the event with, because the choice of tent you take will affect how close you physically get. And, a lot of people forget stuff, and that involves both of you pulling together to stay comfortable. You have to like somebody to give up your comfort when you're pretty tired and cold and sore.
Yeah. Good. Before we go to the next photograph, we've got a question from Michael Jones. Now, Michael, I'm actually interviewing Michael on Thursday. Do you know Michael?
I don't know.
No, he's won the Lakeland 100 a couple of times, and he organises the Ultra Tour of Snowdon. It's a new event that's just started in the last couple of years. But he's asking about the OMM equipment. How did that brand come about? The actual the equipment brand.
Okay, so the race started in 1968, and in the very early years, Carramore got alongside. There was a guy called Mike Parsons and his sister Jen Longbottom, who were running Carramore at the time. They got involved as sponsors, and then supported the event for many, many years, in 2004, I think. And the event itself is not for profit. It's not very often the event even breaks even, because of the format that you're doing it on, and the entry fees are set at a level to just about try and break even. Because one of the things behind the event is it should be not for profit. As soon as it turns commercial, it changes a little bit. But the kit started off in 1972. So the first rucksack, or the first prototype, was made in 1972, and it was with Chris Brazier and Mike Parsons and a few of the guys at Stuart, and Joe will know more about this than I do. But they were still using metal-framed canvas rucksacks and canvas bell tents at this stage. They were using leather boots with nail studs in the bottom, so the guys decided to start to make some more lightweight kit to use, and so the first rucksack was born. And that's what the Classic 32 is still based on, was that first rucksack. And then as the years have gone on, the kit is, so for an on product to be made, it needs to work either for the race or in training for the race, or for the event. So everything that's made is designed for running in the mountains.
And is that something you're involved in personally?
Yes, I'm not involved in the design because I'm pretty terrible at that sort of stuff. But the product ideas come from the community and from the team as a whole. And then we go and use the stuff and see if we like it and if it works. So yeah, it's all one and the same thing, really. Yeah.
So besides the rucksack, what are the other best sellers that equipment make?
We have some stretchy waterproofs called Camleica, which they're quite unique on the market. There's some other stretch waterproofs around. But yeah, the fit of the rucksacks is critical, because a rucksack primarily needs to be stable. And so we work very hard to try and achieve that. You can make anything very lightweight, but it loses its durability the lighter it goes. So stability is the most important thing with pack, then the weight, so stability and function, and then try and make it look good. With waterproofs and insulation, one needs to keep you dry and the other one needs to keep you warm. So my favourite pieces at the moment are my Camleica jacket, like kind of like a shorts, which are getting a fair bit of use at this time of year when it rains. It just keeps a certain part of your body dry and stops wind chill and any chafage. And then I'm a big fan of the mountain raid trousers, because I wear those a lot on the event underneath my normal trousers, because it gets quite cold standing around at times, and I don't like to look like I'm wearing warm kit. So I put those on underneath and nobody knows I've got them on.
So it's pronounced Cam Leica, because I've got the jacket, I love it, but I never knew quite how to say it.
Well, Cam Leica is an Inuit word for a waterproof.
Okay.
And with the rubbery, stretchy, sort of almost dynamic nature of it, that's where the name came from. And it's, it was the first piece of clothing that was made within the On range, and we're on this September will be the 5th generation that's coming out.
Good. And is that worth buying then, is it?
Not my place to tell people what they should be buying or not. I like it.
Yeah.
I use it. And we buy our stuff as well. We don't take it out of the company or get it for free.
Yeah.
Because we don't want ourselves to take advantage of it. And for us, that's a reasonable example. Yeah.
No, I think to be serious, I think it's known as a quality brand, isn't it? And if you're going to buy an equipment, it has been tested, it's been designed, it's been tried out by people who do the event, and so I think it does have there's a confidence there, isn't there?
It's the product is supposed to work on the event.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work on the event, then we shouldn't have it in a product range.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't be very good at our jobs if we were producing stuff that wasn't good at doing what it's supposed to do in the mountains.
Yeah.
Reputations take a long time to build.
Yeah.
They don't take very long to destroy. And actually, the worst thing that can happen to you when you're in the hills is a piece of your kit fails.
Yeah.
Because it's not something that you ever really should need to think about. If a strap comes off your rucksack, or your waterproof stops working, or whatever it is, it can really take something that's quite manageable and safe to being not.
Yeah. Yeah, good. I hope that answers your question, Michael, and we'll find out later. And then if anyone else has got another question, then feel free to put them in. And the next photograph I want to look at is you with a group in Japan. So this is with Dave Chapman, is it? The Hill Director, and the team in Japan. So tell us a little bit about this one, please.
Yeah, I don't think I'm in that picture. But Dave's been involved in the event since the 70s. And he heads up the Hill team side of things. So Dave effectively quality controls all of the courses. He sorts out all of the land access side of things in the UK, along with his team. And he's worked incredibly closely with me to mentor the teams in other countries. To ensure that we've got consistency across the courses, across the different places that we're delivering the event in. So Dave is referred to as Dave-san in Japan, and effectively if Dave says something, then everybody else does it. He has a huge amount of experience and a very considered man. He listens to what other people have got to say, and then when he comes out with his point of view, it's normally because he's considered all the other elements. And it's generally worth listening to, in my experience.
Yeah. Now, so how many countries are you working in then?
With the events, 3.
3, right. Yeah. So that's UK, the Alps, and Japan.
Yes, and when you say countries, the Alps is more of a region, obviously.
Yeah.
So this year it's on the German-Austrian border. Last year was in Switzerland, and the year before that was in Germany.
Okay.
So the idea is that we get the luxury of being able to move it around to really beautiful parts of the Alps that people don't necessarily go to.
Yeah,
And in the UK.
And the event in Japan, is that mainly Japanese taking part, or do you get a lot of people going for the event?
At the moment, about 95% of the competitors are from Japan.
Wow.
It sells out within normally between 2 to 6 weeks, and and then the rest of the competitors are made up by, we've had people travelling from the UK and from various other parts of the world. But it's a much smaller percentage than you would see here in the UK, where around about 25 to 30% of our competitors would come from overseas. And we'd normally see between 20 to 25 countries represented in the UK. Whereas on the Japanese event, you would see maybe 5 or 6 different countries. Okay. And only maybe 5% of the field made up by people who don't live in Japan.
Yeah. And have you had many from Japan who've done that event come across to the Alps and the UK?
Yes, we have. There's a very small but committed following from the Japanese guys. Yeah. And there's some teams that have done all of the events every year since we've been doing them. So, it's really cool to have people on the other side of the world who sort of get the thing and just enjoy it enough to want to come and join us at the different events. Yeah.
And maybe at this point, Stuart, you could tell us just a little bit about your plans for this year. Obviously, as we all know, we're in the middle of this pandemic and no one quite knows what's happening. Events are being pretty well cancelled right through the summer. So just tell us a little bit about your thinking with the events for this year, please.
We would normally be gearing up to go and do our Confirmation Hill Week sometime this month or next month. So we've actually been working on that today, looking at how we can rejig that, and we've got the permissions are all in place, which they needed to be last year. So really now it's finding the time to get on the ground to do those confirmations, be able to submit the mapping courses to printers and the map makers, to make sure we can get those delivered in time. But at this stage, we're hopeful that whilst we may need to modify the way the event's delivered and certainly take a view on the numbers, that we will be able to deliver the OM in some shape or form this year. It's difficult to plan when there are no parameters to operate within. So we're working up lots of different plans at the moment, all with the end goal of being able to deliver the event. And we're positive, or we're feeling positive at the moment that we can do that. And I certainly don't want to be the first bloke in 53 events that fails to put it on, because that's not a title I really want.
No. But these are unprecedented times, aren't they? We've never seen anything like this, have we, in our lifetime?
No, but they managed to put it on foot and mouth, or Jen managed to. Right. And the event was modified to achieve that. But there's the main thing is that we can do it in a safe and responsible way, and we'll never take a chance on that. But the job of the event is to create space for a community to come together, new and experienced alike, and get out into the mountains and enjoy themselves. And that's something that we're pretty committed to. That's what we like doing ourselves.
Yeah. And the event in the Alps, what time is that one? What's the date for that one?
So that's on for the 1st and 2nd of August. Right. It's a little bit closer. We're talking to the local government at the moment, and we'll see what the implications are for international travel. And those will change quite a lot over the next 3 to 4 weeks. And we're due to make a decision on that on the 1st of June, although we may be able to push that back slightly. What we have said is that anybody who enters that event will get full refund if we are in a position where we can't put it on, and that if we don't get the entries, then we also won't be able to put it on. So for anybody out there who's thinking about it, I would say please enter. If we don't put it on, we'll give you all of your money back, not just a percentage of it, and we'll do what the art of the possible is. It may be that it's restricted to people who can get there by car, or who can travel a certain distance. But whatever it is, if there's a way to deliver it, then we'll find that.
Malcolm actually has put a comment saying there may be a surge to enter. So is it best to enter now?
Absolutely, and that's why we've put a statement on the site. If you enter and we can't put it on, you'll get your money back.
Yeah.
If we don't get enough entries, we won't be able to put it on.
Right.
We're in the business of putting events on that people want to come and do.
Yeah.
It'd be a real shame if we turned out to be able to put it on, but because we didn't have the entries, we had to pull it.
Yeah. So,
yes, if anybody's
not gone.
Sorry, no. If anybody is thinking of doing it, then please do enter, safe in the knowledge that if we can't provide the event for you, then we'll give you all of your money back.
Yeah.
But it would be helpful from us.
Yeah. I was just going to ask you, in a normal year, at what point would entries open? Is there a fixed time where people have to enter by?
There's a time which we close entries as we get close to the event, and that's to produce start lists and confirm the numbers for catering and all these sorts of things. We try and get the entries open as soon as possible, but that's we can't open entries for an event that we're not convinced we can deliver in terms of getting the access permissions in place. And so it changes from time to time, depending on the last minute sort of negotiations that are going on.
Yeah. But roughly, is that 6 months before or 3 months before?
I think we open entries for the UK event this year in January, maybe. Or it might have been before Christmas. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But no, as soon as we can, we try to get them open. Ideally, we have them open for a couple of days after the event the preceding year. So, for example, we tried to get it open in November time for the UK event. Yes, but the best laid plans don't always stick to timelines, fortunately.
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with the sort of digital side of things that we need to operate the entries on these days. Yeah.
I can see this is going to test all your logistics skills this year, particularly. Just trying to keep on top of all this.
The logistics of the event's pretty easy. You put a few tents and toilets up and chuck some power in the field, and it's normally all comes together. So.
Yeah. Okay, if anyone's got a question, again, put them on there. So the next photo we got is a black and white one, and this is you up in the doing some winter mountaineering. So could you tell us a bit about this one, please, Stuart?
Yeah, that's a winter mountaineering trip we're doing in Bavaria, either last winter or the winter before. It's just a group of mates going away for boys' weekend. We've gone up to a hut that one of the guys has access to and has no electricity. Well, the electricity comes from a generator. The heat comes from a fire. There's no phone signal. There's no TV. There's no radio. It's just go there with some friends and enjoy the peace and quiet of the mountains and each other's company. I've got some very fond memories of that place, of doing some night ski touring and taking a couple of ridges in and bits and pieces. And it's just a magical place to be with some friends when you get to go and share those experiences and sort of admire the physical fitness of other people going up the mountain at places which you can't, and then get to laugh at people's shortcomings on the way down. Assuming that it's all done and nobody's hurting themselves, because you wouldn't want to laugh at anybody hurting themselves.
No.
Yeah. No, just some happy times with that photo.
Yeah. And is that sort of that winter climbing, walking? Is that your favourite time of the year? Do you prefer to test yourself in sort of colder conditions?
I think for me the most uncomfortable and demanding conditions are when you're sort of +5 to -5, and you're getting wet and then things freeze. But for me, that's also the most unenjoyable time to be in those conditions. When you get a cold, crisp day with good snowpack and good visibility and stable weather, especially at night, the conditions and the sort of atmosphere is just it's so. I don't know what the right word for it is, but you find a place in the world and a tranquility of being in the mountains at that time. Given the choice, being in the mountains in the winter is my favourite place to be.
Yeah. I assume you've been up to Scotland quite a bit as well, have you?
When I get a chance, yes.
Yeah.
Spent quite a few years up there. That's a beautiful part of the world to go.
Yeah. No, it's good. Okay, and then the next photograph is you at the ITERA event. So just tell us a little bit about this one and what's the story behind this this picture.
So ITERA is this amazing event that's put on by James Thurlow and Tom Gibbs and a few of the other guys. And I came across it through talking to some of the other guys in the community. It's multidiscipline, so there's mountain biking, kayaking or sea kayaking on that particular event, and I'd say running, but more moving across large swathes of land on foot. And it's, you can stop when you want to within certain degrees. You decide when you sleep and how long you sleep for, and it's essentially the fastest one around the course wins. The Masters course from that one was around 565 kilometres. The race started with a 20-kilometre sea kayak from Dunrobin Castle down to Glenmorangie Distillery. And then you got on your bike and we cycled from the east coast to the west coast of Scotland. And then we went down the west coast of Scotland and came back across to the east coast of Scotland up to Inverness.
Wow.
But yeah, if you haven't ever looked at it, it's epic. That route that the guys put together for the race this year is just stunning. You end up in some truly remote places at times of day that you would never normally be there. You get tired enough that you start to hallucinate and see funny things, and yeah, it's a real bonding experience. Very important to pick the right teammates because you're going to need their help at some stage, but you also need to be able to pull together, and you're not all going to agree with decisions that are made at a particular time. So yeah, that was a proper test. Epic. We didn't finish it. We came off after about 68 hours. One of the team had unfortunately crashed into a tree on the mountain bike and separated a bicep. So the docs asked us to stop. So we're going to go back again next year with the same team and try and get that finished. Although I don't know where the team are putting the race on just yet.
Right. And it's always a different course every year, is it?
Yes, it's on every 2 years. Right. It's different courses and just truly epic. I mean, to go from, I think the longest sort of stuff I'd done was maybe 3 days. In terms of an actual race, to then go to a 5-day, 560-kilometre behemoth. Yeah, I mean, Joe has got some interesting stories about some of the sea kayaking stages that are worth asking him about.
Okay, well, actually, just mentioning Joe, he's put a question on. He says, what were the key learning points from the ITERA for you?
Well, it was my first adventure race. Kit is an absolute monster because you're going from wetsuits and gearing up to be at sea to getting on your bike the first bike leg we did was around about 140 kilometres. It was at night and it was right the way across Scotland. So you need to make sure your nutrition's right and you've got sufficient battery power in your lights, you've got the right quality lights. That your bike's geared up for being able to go from tarmac to track to, when it gets dark enough, you can't really see where you're going, especially when you end up upside down in the water. So, yeah, kit was a massive one. Having the right team and understanding what everybody's goals are before the race, that's absolutely critical because if you want different things out of it, then you're not going to come through it as a team. And yeah, at no stage were you ever particularly out of breath on a race like that. It was about endurance, managing your sleep and managing each other within the team, making sure you eat properly. And yeah, like I say, kit plays a big part of that one.
Yeah.
And remembering just to enjoy where you are, because it's there's times when you're a little bit tired, a little bit grumpy, not so happy with life, but you're still in some truly beautiful places, and it's worth having a look around and put it in perspective.
Yeah.
But there's a place to go to really push your own limits. That race gives it to you in spades.
Yeah, I would imagine as well if you're with a team of 3, is it?
a team of four.
Team of four.
So one lady, or a minimum of one lady, and three guys.
Wow. I would imagine just managing sleep is quite a key one, because some people can go a lot longer, can't they, without sleep? Others need to have more regular. So, and you've all got to stay together, I assume.
Yes, yeah, you have to stay together. It's one of the things I struggled with. I'm not very good at catnapping until I get properly tired. Whereas, but if I do stop, then I like to stop for 4 or 6 hours to get some sleep, and that pattern's quite different from other people in the team.
Yeah.
But I can go for 3 days without having any sleep. Wow. So it's again, it all comes down to understanding your team and what everybody's goals are, and knowing when to respect that somebody is genuinely at the end of their limit, rather than just saying, "No, I'm a bit tired. I'd like to stop." Because you get people falling asleep on a mountain bike, and being asleep on a bike and on tarmac's not a great combination. And people fall asleep in the boats and stuff. So you've got to make the right decisions for safety thing, but you've also got to work out what's best for the team. So it's funny. Yeah, really funny.
I can imagine. Yeah. That's great. And then the final photo you sent me is a beautiful photo of a lake in Switzerland, and with beautiful blue sky. So tell us about this one, please.
Yeah, that's just over the ridge from a place called Lenzerheide in Switzerland, where we had the event last year, actually. But that was the previous September, and we'd supported a competition that one of the magazines were running for 6 people from various different European countries to come for a weekend of guided trail running. And we provided some kit for the winners, and we also went over and helped with the guiding side of things. And there was a group of about 10 of us that day. The ridge that you can see at the back there is about 2,800 metres. We come from the valley floor the other side, which is about 1,600 metres, a little bit low. So up over the top of that, and then we got down to this around about lunchtime. And as you can imagine from glacial meltwater, it's properly nice and chilled. I had a little swim in there and had some food and stuff. And again, it was just a very different way of being in the mountains with a group of people I didn't know, who were new to trail running and new to navigation. And it was a beautiful place to be able to take them on their first time, to show them what using a map can do for you in the mountains and the places it can take you. It's actually, once you learn to use them, you get to find these beautiful places, and the added bonus is you know how to get back from them. So it's, that was a really cool thing to do.
Yeah. Okay, I've got 5 questions just to finish with, Stuart, that I've been asking all the guests I've had over the last 7 or 8 weeks. But before we do that, just got a nice comment from Les Smith. And he said, "Hi, Stuart was lucky enough to work on the OM event in Glen Trool and Langdale the following year, retail. What epic weeks. You also talked about OM kit and how well it works in the mountains. Lived in my rotor top for 3 weeks in Nepal last December. Awesome piece of kit." So he's very much in favour of the kit there. And Karen Nash, who also I had as a guest last week. "Hi Stuart, did the Japan OM last November and loved it. It was very different in many ways. Any plans for OMs in other places?"
Yes, but none I've got confirmed at the moment. One of the things with the event is the way we're able to keep the event not for profit is by supporting it with some of the sales of product. And where we aren't selling product or we're not entering the market there, then it's very difficult to find a way of delivering the event. So the two sort of come hand in hand together. There's places I'd love to take the event to just for taking the event to's sake. Unfortunately, the boring bit behind it, the budgets and bits and pieces, doesn't always follow through.
Right. Okay, so you're happy with these final questions? Again, obviously, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just your view on these things. So the first one is, what is the best piece of advice that you've been given, please? If you can think of something.
If the question pops into your head, should I do this? The answer is probably no.
Oh, right, okay.
And that's relevant to when the weather's bad.
Oh, right.
And you think, I could just keep going up to there. I can just do this. I can just do that. It's knowing when to stop and when to turn back.
Yeah.
And it's particularly relevant in winter mountaineering stuff, where you might take 3 or 4 hours to climb up to be able to enter a cool one or something like that. And you get there and the snow conditions aren't right or whatever else. Have the discipline to make the right decision and come back.
Yeah. Great. Thank you very much. This is an interesting one for you. What is your favourite piece of kit?
I think it's my mountain raid pants, my insulated trousers. I use them for most things. They're brilliant.
Yeah. Okay, and I'm sure there's lots of stuff as well that you could recommend. Have you got a particular go-to food in a long ultra or a long event? That some food that you know will always work for you?
Yeah, beef jerky.
Oh, okay.
I don't particularly. I'm not a big sweet fan.
Right.
And there's a farm just up the coast here from us who make their own, and I really like. It's the sort of thing you can put in your mouth and just you don't have to chew it. You just suck it, and it gives you flavour for ages. And yeah.
And it doesn't weigh too much to carry either, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. Good. Thank you very much. And if there was one more ultra or event that you could do, which one would it be?
It would be the ITERA next year.
Okay.
That's unfinished business.
Yeah.
And it was very disappointing not to be able to finish that one.
Right.
Because we got to the stage where we could see the end of it. I'd like to go back and finish that.
Yeah. And will you go back with the same team?
Yep.
Yeah.
All being well with injuries and things, then yes, we will.
Yeah. Just on that one, have you got any events this year that you're still hoping to do? I know you mentioned there's a couple that have obviously been cancelled already, but is there any big ones that you're still hoping to do?
No, all of the ones that I was hoping to do this year have either been cancelled or postponed till next year. We had a 7-day winter route that we're hoping to do at the end of March there. It's going to go and do the Arran Skyline race, and then we're aiming to do the Saunders. After that, I'm working, so we'll wait till next year now.
Yeah. And I think most of us are just having to put all our plans for next year, aren't we, really? Certainly up until the summer. Yeah,
it gives you more of a chance to train, so there's no excuses that you don't do as well as you think you should by the time you get there.
Yeah. I was due to be in the lakes last weekend for the Great Lakeland 3-day event. I did it for the first time last year and absolutely loved it, and I was looking forward to going back. So that was it. It was difficult when I turned over the calendar for May on my in the kitchen, and I had that, and then I was going to volunteer at the Cape Wrath Ultra in a couple of weeks, with the idea of doing it next year. So I'm just going to have to put those back a year, basically. Yeah,
but no, Shane puts on some really good events.
Yeah,
and they're very professionally done, and it's tough, isn't it, when you set yourself a target and you're really looking forward to it and you've done the work for it, to not be able to do it outside of your control. So I think I share the pain with a lot of people around the country at the moment of not being able to get out there and do what you want to do.
Yeah, I did the Dragon's Back last year, which I absolutely loved. It was an epic event. Yeah. Okay, and the final question I had was, do you have a mantra to keep you going when things get tough? Thinking about the mental side of keeping going when things are difficult.
Yeah, you don't have to be here.
Yeah.
Remember, you've chosen to do it. If you want to break and give up, then stop whinging about it and go home. But if you're going to carry on, then shut up and get on with it.
Excellent. Yeah. And is that something you sometimes sort of tell yourself?
Oh, I don't tell that to anybody else. That's not my place. Not anymore these days.
No.
But no, that's it's all about perspective.
Yeah.
You know, when things get a little bit tough, that's largely why you choose to go and do these events.
Yeah.
It's because you want to find out where your boundaries are and see if you can step over them.
Yeah.
And you know, either you have to embrace that and enjoy it, or if you're not enjoying it, then you know, go home. But you're going to have to live with yourself afterwards.
Yeah.
So there's no point whinging to yourself about something that you've chosen to do. Just find a happier place and get back to work.
Yeah. Great. Excellent advice. Thank you very much. And thank you so much for tonight, Stu. I've really enjoyed getting to know you and seeing some of these photographs and listening to your answers. It's been great. And just to let those who are watching, I've got another interview on Thursday with Michael Jones, who's the Lakeland 100 winner. And then next week I've got Damien Hall next Tuesday night, and then Joe Faulkner next Thursday. So a few more interviews there lined up as well. But just want to say thank you, Stuart, and we wish you all the best for this year, and really hope that you can put on these two OM events in the Alps and in the UK, and wherever they go. And if not, then you'll be back next year, won't you?
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for having me, John. Likewise, it's been great to chat with you, and I feel very humbled listening to the list of names that you've already interviewed and those that you're about to interview to be chucking my 2 pence in. So yeah, nice company to be keeping, certainly.
Good. Just a final comment from Jenny Rees-Jenkins, who's a good friend in Scotland. She says, brilliant advice, great interview, very inspiring. So thanks, Jenny, for that. That's great. Okay, so we'll finish there. And again, just want to say thank you very much, and we wish you all the best for the future.